I'm coming. Oh, spotlighting myself, so weird. I thought I would give you something a bit lighter to finish this first part, and it's about nostalgia because I couldn't remember what the showcase was about, and I thought it was nostalgic. But I thought I'd give you a definition of nostalgia. In the most recent edition of the Intergalactic Dictionary, nostalgia is described like this: a strange feeling one gets when they wonder why their life sucks as much as it does and decide to blame time itself instead of their actions. Adults feel nostalgia towards their teenage years. Teenagers are nostalgic for their childhood. Children wish they could be babies again, and babies wonder why the hell a trapdoor opened under them after 9 months of peaceful existence, taking them to a world no one seems to want to grow up in. But then nostalgia gets interesting. Instead of feeling nostalgia toward periods of their own lives, some people are nostalgic for eras they didn't even live in. Kids and teens regret living in this modern world and begin idealizing periods like the 80s, a time during which love, happiness, good music, and AIDS were spreading everywhere. 80s kids probably would have loved to overthrow a bunch of stuff as students in the 60s, and 60s kids wonder if the war really wasn't the end of good times, often forgetting that it being titled World War II meant there was a prequel to it. Surely nostalgia doesn't end here. As a wise man once wrote, many were increasingly of the opinion that they'd all made a big mistake in coming down from the trees in the first place. And some even said that the trees had been a bad move, and that no one should ever have left the oceans. Depending on who's reading those sentences, they either express a strong feeling of nostalgia or an extreme bitterness and hatred for the entirety of humanity. A good dictionary would tell you that the latter is merely a definition of the former. It is, however, fair to say that evolution gives birth to nostalgia, in addition to some of nature's greatest mistakes, such as manatees or dubstep. Birds feel a whole lot of nostalgia for this time during which they ruled the world as giant lizards, a regret for which they have put the blame on humans, as they chose to take their revenge by shitting in their coffee. Horses regret those days they weren't mounted by 6-year-olds, or any human beings for that matter. Cows also remember this era when there wasn't a constant private part pooling going on. And in fact, most animals also believe that coming out of the oceans and down from the trees were two of humanity's first mistakes. The only exception to this being monkeys, which have repeatedly been found thanking the genetic lottery for not getting them to evolve in humans. You might think that this is what nostalgia feels like at its most extreme, and you would be very wrong. The original Martians, not those green little things, those were Jupiter migrants fleeing the third gas war on a ship that landed on the red planet by accident, but the original Martians feel deeply nostalgic for the days the Earth was nothing more than a blazing rock they planned on colonizing. As with the animals, the blame has been put on humans, and Martians decided to pull pranks on them for a few centuries. Yet this is not extreme nostalgia. If we pull our focus even further away, nostalgia even strikes interstellar traveling civilizations that profoundly miss the days they were alone in the hyperspace. Reckless pilots from Alpha Centauri weren't a thing back then, and you could drive up to 20.4 light years per hour without any problem other than internal organ obliteration. Because of this, such extreme speeds were only achieved by metallic life forms. The idea behind this is that nostalgia is, by definition, there is a place in the universe where extreme nostalgia and continues to nearly be achieved. This happens on Iota Draconis b, a planet where the population's average lifespan is about 12 minutes, which is roughly the time it takes an Iota Draconian to get born, learn how to walk, realize there is in fact no way they could achieve anything greater than their ancestors, and throw themselves off a cliff. Pushed even further, nostalgia results in the Five-Eyed Rabbit Massacre. It happened when a bunch of pentadimensional beings from the outer rings of the Andromeda Galaxy remembered how great life was before, and they decided to annihilate an entire solar system to restore their view of the now Four-Eyed Rabbit constellation. People can feel nostalgia. Entire species do. Sometimes even planets do as well. But this is not extreme nostalgia. Such a thing has happened. Nostalgia has been pushed to its maximum by none other than time itself, after it's realized that, by definition, Nostalgia meant it had to blame itself for all of its failures. This resulted in the pure and simple destruction of the universe. Or rather, this should have. But this has already been delayed a number of times by quite a few formal complaints filed against time. Indeed, the universe is being held together by the one thing that has never been and will never be any better: bureaucracy.